Good morning and welcome. It is 7:20. It is the 8th day of the cold month of November. Yesterday was daylight savings time, so hopefully you all remember to spring forward and fall back. I'm sure there's people who think it's a good idea still, daylight savings times, but I think most of the world has sort of agreed it's not. So who knows? Maybe it'll finally go away. But, we're sort of ingrained in our collective unconscious to keep spring forward, fall back. So maybe it won't go away. And speaking of news, it is I, your guide to all the tabletop role-playing game news, weather, sports, controversy, speculation, and general internet nonsense that is the OGGM. And it is Monday morning at 52 degrees here in Ventura, California, and it's time for our first spoonful of tabletop role-playing game news. So let's take a look at what happened during the weekend. If anything interesting happened. We've got some news. Of course, we know that the Level Up Advanced 5e Kickstarter is reaching its final stages. They've only been pushing this for almost 2 years now. So we will see if it's actually worth all the energy that's been invested in this. It's also the 40th anniversary of Call of Cthulhu. Happy 40th birthday, Cthulhu, our chaotic lord of tentacles. We have the classic video game series Tomb Raider is coming to the tabletop as Lara Croft Tomb Raider. This announcement came as part of the Square Enix celebration of the 25th anniversary of the original Tomb Raider game. Wow, I feel old. I remember playing this day one. It also included announcements for a new cookbook. Did Laura do a lot of cooking in the Tomb Raider video games that I don't remember? And a travel guide. So, yeah, I don't know what that means. Sales of the video games Tomb Raider has obviously seen a slight spike because it's her anniversary. And there might even be a Netflix animated Tomb Raider series coming up. Does anybody want that? Anyways, this seems to be a passion project that Square Enix has been working on for a while now, apparently since 2007. Other than that, we don't know anything about it, except that we should see some previews coming up soon. There will be a core rulebook and an introductory adventure called Mark of the Phoenix that should be seeing print by the end of this year, which means because of shipping and everything, probably sometime next year, because it's already November. So, yeah, the world sort of shuts down during December. Side note, I was at the market over the weekend, and their Easter candy is up already. Only a little bit of it, but yep, there's chocolate bunnies, so, yeah. There's pre-orders are going out now for a whole slew of new products from WizKid, including the 12-inch tall Githyanki figure, which is, I guess, is more of a statue than a figure that you could use in the game, because a 12-inch tall Githyanki for D&D scale would be like a storm giant, wouldn't it? So yeah, it is basically the classic Githyanki, however you pronounce it, from the original cover of the Fiend Folio with the melting flesh and everything. Truly, when I was a kid, that melting flesh Githyanki really freaked me out. It's still sort of frightening. I don't know why anybody would want this, but I mean, if you're an action figure statue kind of person, yeah. There's also one of these coming out for Drizzt. Okay, wait a minute. And I just read the price. Okay, I'm sorry. So the Githyanki figure is going to cost about $300. There's a full-size foam statue of Drizzt coming out for $1,500. A full size? So like 6'2", or are we talking like 12-inch? A full-size statue of Drizzt would be a mannequin, wouldn't it? I mean, if it's 2 Drizzt's height, which is Drizzt, like 5'11", I think. For $1,500, that frightens the shit out of me. A Tiamat figure coming out for $400. A 130-piece, two-story playable scale model of the Yachting Portal Inn with furniture and LED fireplaces for $350. A life-size replica of the Wand of Orcus over 30 inches long, complete with a wall mount for $170. And a premium 12-inch series of pre-painted miniatures available in random boxes with one large or huge figure and 3 medium or small figures, along with 4 boxes featuring the Witchlight Carnival. That's what we wanted. That's what we wanted to see. So we're gonna see the Wild Beyond the Witchlight series. Yes, this is what I'm excited about. We're gonna hopefully see some creepy circus figures. That's what we need for D&D. In addition, we have a pre-painted 6-inch tall Loth miniature coming out for $70. A D&D Icons of the Realm Storm King's Thunder miniature set, which I assume will finish, include a figure of one of the giants. And then sometime later next year, we will have the Kid Robot D&D First Edition miniatures featuring 3-inch vinyl minis from the first edition of Monster Manual, including Beholder, Displacer Beast, so all the classic monsters that first appeared. So that's a lot of figures, a lot of expensive figures. So, I mean, $300 for basically a statue of a Githyanki. I'm still not sure what full-size foam statue of Drizzt means. Let's see if we have any more information of that. So it's $1,500. It's a removable hood and cloak, life-size, full-scale figure. Stands 5 feet 7 inches tall. How do you ship that? Why would you want this in your house? Where would you put it? Why does this need to exist? 5 feet 7 inches tall. Yeah, and apparently it's already got a spot on Amazon for pre-orders. $150. I'm sure there is a market for this. I don't know why, but sure, I guess there's probably someone out there who'd want a full-size Drizzt standing in the corner. It'd freak me out coming home every night and forgetting it was there. Okay, we also have the 14 inches tall, 28 inches wide, $400 Tiamat. The Yachting Portal play set for $400. I could just get a bunch of Legos and build that. The life-size replica of the Wand of Orcus, over 30 inches long. How many people are going to buy that, assuming it works, for $170? And a 30 inches long Wand of Orcus hanging in your house. Somebody's going to hit somebody over the head with that. And of course, we have the 12-inch tall statue of an Afridi holding a knight for $300. We have the Icons of the Realm Wild Beyond the Witchlight figures coming out, which I'm excited about. And then starting next year, we're having a pre-painted 6-inch tall Loth miniature for $70. The Storm King Thunder set, which will include probably a Storm King Giant, which will probably run the same price as this Githyanki. And then Kid Robot First Editions miniature featuring 3-inch vinyl minis. So they'll be like cutesy minis. Oh my God, I need to take a minute because I'm just trying to imagine a life-size Drizzt statue with, that means the swords are life-size. Every inch of me sees that as a disaster waiting to happen. It's also the life-size Wand of Orcus. I just know that's going to get bashed upside somebody's head. That's just, I don't know why there's a market for that. I'm sure there is a market for that. I mean, we know there's a market for that. It's just, yeah, it's just sort of weird and slightly disturbing. Okay, Paizo has announced changes in his leadership team with Jim Butler and Mike Webb joining the group in charge of Paizo. This comes right after the whole unionization of Paizo. So apparently Paizo is changing the directions post-union shakeup. We will see what, if anything, this matters or how it affects the future of Paizo. Right now, it's safe to say that Paizo/Pathfinder 2nd Edition is really not being the challenge to D&D 5th that Pathfinder was to 4th. But Starfinder is kicking ass, so maybe more Starfinder-related stuff and less Pathfinder 2nd Edition? Who knows? In other staffing news, Adam Lee announced that he is leaving Wizards of the Coast. Lee joined the company in 2010 as a narrative and game designer for Magic the Gathering before moving to Dungeons & Dragons in 2014. He was announced as the creative lead for Dungeons & Dragons earlier this year, but then decided to, I guess, go different directions, or they decided to cut ties with him. Geek Native reports that starting with the upcoming adventure Doorway to the Red Star, Paizo will no longer use the term phylactery in references to liches. We talked about this earlier this week. Okay, so we know that in apparently Paizo and a few other game company thinks that the word phylactery is offensive because it's a word from the Jewish religion. So we're going on what? 2024, 2022, 47 years the word has existed in the D&D lexicon, and not once has anybody said anything about it that I'm aware of. But now people are like, oh, you can't use that word. You're racially something from the religions. What's next? Are we going to get rid of sphinxes and genies? And I don't know. What about elves? I mean, aren't elves racially appropriating from Santa's workshop? Maybe we should get rid of elves and dwarves and gnomes. Why? It's just a word, and it was never a thing until you made it a thing. At least that's what I think, but maybe I'm wrong. So from going forward, all the Paizo, Pathfinder, Starfinder adventures will no longer use the word phylactery. They're instead going to use the new word. Wait for it. Don Cornelius presents The Soul Cage. And Doorway to the Red Star is the 5th in the 6 adventures of the Strength of Thousands adventure path for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, set to release Wednesday. So the previous editions of this adventure use phylactery, but from here on, for the rest of this adventure path, phylactery's gone. The Lich will now refer to his phylactery as a soul cage. French board company ELO announced that it's splitting from its sister company ELO USA. ELO issued a statement. The company, distributor and publisher of the board games based in Helicourt, France, has decided to rethink the distribution of products in the United States and in Canada. Probably because it's really impossible right now to distribute anything from over there to over here because of shipping. It's a board game company, though, so I really don't know how that affects role-playing, except, of course, this is probably the shape of things to come. It's going to be, until we get this almost 2-year gap in shipping issues fixed, if ever. A lot of foreign companies are probably going to find it very difficult to distribute here in the States, and a lot of state-based companies are going to have to rethink distribution, just getting stuff to market. There's a word I can't say this early in the morning. So instead of, sending a product overseas, having it produced overseas and then sent back here because that's technically cheaper, they're going to have to fork out the extra money and start producing in-home, which is going to be technically more expensive. Excuse me. So this is probably the first of many changes we will see. And finally, Humble Bumble. Yay, Humble Bumble. There are 4 bundles currently up. We have Monte Cook's Games has a Numeria bundle featuring all the core books for the Numeria system for just as low as $1, and the full library of 28 books for as high as $15. This bundle runs through the end of November and doesn't say if it supports a charity or not. Probably not, knowing Monte Cook. The Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay Bundle is still going, featuring a total of 50 free books for just $30, including the core rules for 4th edition and digital releases for 2nd edition. This benefits the Water Aid charity and runs through the end of November. The Dungeons & Monsters 3D Printable Tabletop Bundle features a massive library of files ready for your 3D printer. Featuring a huge collection of PCs and NPCs, this bundle benefits a very good charity, Cancer Research and Make-A-Wish, and runs through pretty much the end of November. And finally, we have the Map Bonanza bundle featuring Campaign Cartographer and other mapping softwares. Top level $30, features lifetime licenses to Campaign Cartographer, Fractal Terrains, Fantasy Mapper, blah, 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 stuff like that. And this bundle benefits Carbon Funding and Oceans. Carbon Funding and Oceans? Is that one charity or two, guys? Oh, well, it benefits a charity that's dealing with ocean preservation and runs to basically the end of November. So if you are a fan of Mr. Monty Cook's Never Ending Creations, that's a good one. If you're a Warhammer Fantasy guy or gal, that's a good one. If you have a 3D printer, then probably the 3D printer one is excellent. All of these, of course, are PDFs. All of these are attainable through the Humble Bumble, and some of the funds go to charity. And that's it for what appears to be coming out this week in the tabletop role-playing game news. If you're like me, you're probably still in shock that someone out there is thinking there's an audience for a life-size figure of Drizzt, because that's what everybody wants, is a tall, spooky figure standing in the corner of their house holding 2 swords when they come home at 3 o'clock at night in the dark. That would freak the fuck out of me every time I came home. But yeah, it's out there. If you agree with me, let me know. If you don't agree with me, let me know. If you want to hear more tabletop role-playing game news, let me know. If you don't want to hear normal tabletop role-playing game news, let me know. Until next time, I am your guide to all the tabletop role-playing game news, weather, sports, controversy, speculation, mockery, and general internet nonsense, saying, remember, it's only a game. It's just a game. It's not anything more than a game. Also, get off my land.